Why parsing matters. I have a lot to say on this subject, and it may be controversial, but let's get to it. You know, some people enjoy playing World of Warcraft Classic at its basic level. Now, kill the boss, get the loot, and repeat this process over and over and over. But, you know, some of us like to strive for something more, something just more satisfying. And this is where parsing is going to come in. Parsing has been part of an intense debate in World of Warcraft since most of us can remember. Just like what people think about it, that people have so much to say about it. So in this video, I want to go over why not only something like parsing matters, but why playing any game with a competitive drive matters. So what do I mean by competitive drive? The definition of compete is strive to gain or win something by defeating or establishing superiority over others who are trying to do the same. For a lot of us in many aspects of life, competing in healthy competition is seen as a good thing, and many more of us just have that innate human instinct to strive to be the best at something. So naturally, this instinct that many of us have is going to translate over to video games, and not just PvP games. Where there's a metric or a goal, some of us human beings will always try to be the best at it. And luckily, for WoW Classic, there are several competitive metrics that we can strive for. With that said, let's go over the 4 main competitive ways to play World of Warcraft Classic from a PvE perspective. Number 1 is progression. Progression is a cornerstone of World of Warcraft retail and also Classic. Many top guilds see this as the ultimate metric for competition and a goal to achieve, and for good reason. Being the first to clear new content is one of the main things that draws recruits and recognition to your guild. But progression only happens once every 4 or so months, so what do you do in that time if you're a competitive player and don't enjoy PvP? Number 2, speedrunning. Speedrunning is a very popular competitive metric that has quite a large following in the WoW Classic community. The goal is simple: achieve the fastest clear time in the current raid tier at the highest difficulty. It's also pretty fun to watch streams of this because the fast-paced and high-end gameplay, and any simple mistake can ruin the whole run. Something that I learned harshly from my own personal mistake. Number 3, speed kills. Speed kills is an interesting metric in that it's also tracked and people compete for. It's simple and then it's tracked by what guild kills a certain boss the fastest during the current raid tier on the highest difficulty. Speed kills are not the same thing as parsing, as it's more of a team effort to take the boss down as quickly as possible, and you may have to sacrifice some personal DPS to help the raid DPS more. An example would be like using Tricks of the Trade on cooldown. You know, obviously that would hurt your individual damage, but it would help kill the boss slightly faster. I mean, very slightly faster, but, you know, still, it helps. But, so notice all of these metrics I've talked about so far are full team and group oriented. What if you want to strive to be the individual best at something? What if you want to tower over your peers with a metric that shows that you are the best? Well, then I have the perfect metric for you. And you guessed it, number 4 is parsing. Parsing, as I'm sure most of you know, measures your individual damage versus every other player of that same class and spec. There are really a couple variations to parsing. You usually just parse per individual boss, but some people like to parse for complete raid with trash, which is really only a good parse metric for speedrunning. Boss parsing is the competitive metric that I prefer, clearly. Yes, it's satisfying to see those pink numbers with occasional yellow parse, It's also satisfying to see you at the top of every player that plays the game of that class, or even in the top 1%. I mean, even if you strive to be the top 10%, I think that's a great thing to strive for, depending on your guild and other factors. And that is honestly like a guild or raid oriented part to parsing. Usually the better and faster the kills, the better your parse can get. Although not always true. Even in mediocre guilds, you can get 99s easily. And this is something many people love to strive for, even if they won't admit it. Now, let me be clear. Of course, I see the cringe elements to parsing and how it can get out of hand. A great example right now is Yogg 0 Phase 3, where to get a parse, you have to ignore Yogg himself and just AoE blast the Immortal Guardians. I mean, this is something I haven't even done on my main, and I mean, honestly, you know, I probably would, but we've just been we've been speedrunning a lot. So yeah, I mean, I probably would do it, but I mean, that part of parsing is unfortunate, and yeah, it's cringe, and hopefully future raid tiers won't be quite as rough as Old War is at the moment. Next was honestly pretty good and fair, other than a couple things like you needed first spore on low theb, and I mean, there's always going to be RNG in fights for every tier. But one thing I also want to say is you have to remember, parsing well has to go hand in hand with clean mechanics and clean gameplay. You know, I say only play for something selfish if your guild's okay with it. I say that all the time. I don't want to like encourage players to be giga selfish and like, you know, screw their raid over. You can be a team player and parse well, trust me. So let me sum up in conclusion why parsing matters. It's simple. Parsing matters because for many players it's just plain fun and satisfying. And all of these competitive metrics can be fun and satisfying depending on your preference. I'll even say something controversial, in that people that don't like or enjoy any of these competitive aspects of WoW, or say how quote unquote cringe parsing is, usually are well, okay, never mind. I won't actually say it. If you're a person that likes to log on and kill bosses and get drunk with friends and laugh, I can respect that, honestly. But if you can take anything from this video, just strive to be the best at something. Even if it's top details damage in your heroic pug, or least deaths in the raid, or even least damage taken from having clean mechanics. Thanks for watching, guys. I've recently set up a community Discord where we can discuss all things parse related. I'm very active in there. I also have all my add-ons and weak auras listed in there. And I will post a link in the description. And yeah, I hope to do more fun videos like this in the future. And I know I'm gonna get some like hate for this, but you know, I just play the game how you like to play the game and have fun how you like to have fun. Take care, everyone.